All right, guys. So we're going to start going through learning about loops because as you guys have played the number guessing game and created the code for it, you guys came to a realization that you were being really redundant and you had to just copy and paste a lot of if-then statements, which I know you guys were feeling that it was a little ridiculous. And I'll tell you from a computer programming standpoint, a good programmer is not looking at copying and pasting a lot of code, but writing the code once and reusing it. The same as when we declare and initialize a variable. If we want to use that variable again, we don't create another one. We use the same one. Okay, it saves memory. It makes our code easier to read. So what we're going to be talking about is loops, and there are really four types, and I'm going to have a separate video for each one. So this one, I'm going to go through a while loop. Okay, a while loop is, and let me open up here. Oops. Basically, all a loop does is that we come to some type of condition statement. If it's true, then we're going to do the code that's in the brackets and rinse and repeat. So then once we get to the end of the bracket, then we come back to our condition statement. We check if it is true again. If it remains to be true, then we do the code in the brackets again. Okay, we keep doing this over and over and over until the condition statement, so this is using our relational variables, our relational operators. If this is ever not true, and then it spits us out of the loop, and we execute the code right after the while loop, or any loop. So a while loop really just repeats a statement or group of statements as long as that condition is true. And that condition could be a Boolean word, or it could be something, is 8 less than 10, okay? And then I keep doing it. Now, the format for a while loop, you will end up writing the words while, and then here is my conditional, and then I have my bracket. So this is code to be executed. Okay? That's it. I can put if-then statements in here. I can put a while loop inside of a while loop. I can do a lot of things with this. And once you have your if statements down and you start using loops, there are many, many things that we can create in code. So just to show you an example, I have my math tester open. Let me actually increase the size of this. There we go. Super huge. Okay. I'm going to comment out my previous code in my math tester. Okay. So we're inside the main and I could do a Boolean value, and let's just say I call it value, and I can also initialize it, and I could say that it was true. While value is true. So it's looking for something in this conditional part that has to return true or false. And then I have my brackets. So this is where I would want to do my code. System.out.println. I am in a loop. Okay. Now, if I run this, watch what happens. Look, it is not stopping. It is continually printing. Okay. This is actually an issue. If I don't plan out my code and I start using loops, we're in an IDE right now, but if we are actually creating a program that ended up having an infinite loop, which that's what I created, this would have been done infinitely, I would have crashed my computer. Computer would run out of memory. Okay, so let's say that I ran that and I could throw an if statement in here, and I could say, say I do some type of value. Now, there's a lot of ways that we could do this, but I could do if int number, and I give it an initial value of 0, and I want if number is greater than, let's say 10, then I will execute in here this code. Now, I noticed that some of you guys, you tend to put semicolons in between. That's going to cause you guys all kinds of errors. So don't do that. So if number is greater than 10, then I want my value to equal false. Okay? This is one way that I could break out of it. Now, I need to get this number from 0 to 10. So if I want it to print out so many times, and each time it's going to run, let's say I do an else statement. So else, so if number is not greater than 10, then I want to increment up the number by 1. Increment is the same, these two statements are the same if I do number plus 1. These two statements are exactly the same. Okay, this is just shorthand. I can increment. The opposite would be if I wanted to decrement, which would be like this. Okay, so I want to increment up by 1 every time that it runs and it's not greater than 10. Okay, and each time, let's see, and I want to have it count out plus number plus times. Okay, so this will increment up. Once I hit that, then I'm going to kick out. This is one way that I could do it. I have that Boolean value that I'm going to change to false once I have it. So let's watch that run now. I am in a loop 0 times. Now let's look at our code. Well, the order of when I was printing this stuff, I set it as 0, and then I printed the value for it, and even though it's going up, once I get to the end of this bracket right here, see this is my pair, I start back up and I say, hey, what is the value? Well, it's still true, so I go back here, and here is where I reinitialize the exact same value, and now it is 0 again. So I'm still in an infinite loop, but I could put this outside of the while loop, and now my code will run much better. All right, see? I actually got spat out of my code. So each time it ran, it incremented up 1, and as soon as I was greater than 10, that's when it kicked me out. That's how I set it up. Okay, so when you are designing with the while loop, you have to be very careful that you are not creating an infinite loop. But this is very useful for things like games, because this is my game code. I can have the core of my stuff in here. And it does not need to be a Boolean actual variable in there. I can say, while number is less than 10, I could do it that way, and this would actually get replaced right here. I could just say, all right, well, every time you run it, I just want you to increment up. Run it again. Let's look at the code. See, it ran 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 9. As soon as I got up to 10, because number still would have incremented up once while I was in there, but now 10 is not less than 10, so I would go to the very end, and my code would start executing from right after the while loop. Okay, so that's a while loop. It's very, very useful. Play around with it in Math Tester. Try to make it do different things because you're going to start implementing it in a lot of your code.